to put it out to others and let them develop and improve it themselves. So it's all good news. However, can I just make a very quick section here, because I wanted to make a complaint. As people that have been listening to the show know and reading my particular site, I'm a big Chromium fan, and I'm currently running, and just bear with me, version 10.0.648.82. Recently was upgraded, and a big complaint here. If anybody uses Chromium, fantastic browser. I know Roy, I think his primary browser is another one. Unless it's changed, is it, Roy? Are you still? Are you using Chromium? No. Okay. I'll just move to my complaint quickly. Yeah, in the latest version, previously you had your preferences option, which it was like a pull-down menu, and you select your preferences, and it come up in your normal standard requester box with all the options to purge your cache and etc. etc. They've made the preferences now into a page, a local page on your browser in a window, and I can't stand it. It's very, very poor. I don't know why on earth they've done it this way, because of course there are times when you're reading something you want to quickly, I don't know, clear your history or whatever, but now it comes up.
A very good reason. What I've read, I'm not sure. Have you been talking to me about this? I don't think you have.
No.
One of the reasons they want this to be like that is that when people give you manuals on how to change settings, they can give you a link to an option menu. So when they give you a set of instructions, they can instruct you go to this address and just click it, and it goes into the options menu. You can change things. That's what I understood.
And I wonder how easy this could be spoofed. And I wonder how easy or
I'm pretty
how much.
sure they thought about it.
But I just don't like the way it because, like I say, I might be reading something at the same time that I want to quickly flick on something within my preferences option, and I don't want it to open up a new tab and throw me into a new page just so I can, do a simple option. I think it's incredibly bad. I don't like it. I'm old-fashioned. I'm going to put my stubborn face on now. I'm going to say I want to go back to the way it was because I don't like it at all.
But more able to version 10. I was just going to mention something about Firefox, because I know Firefox has just delayed one of the last beta versions, and probably will be released in March instead of this month, as was planned originally. And I'm quite concerned, because I'm using Firefox, and occasionally I see all kinds of managers and presidents of the company leaving. I just saw a person moving from Novell to Mozilla, so at least I know the company still actually absorbed some new people. And they also got Stormy Peters from the GNOME Foundation, as it used to be, and she moved to Mozilla as well. I think they're very much troubled by the fact that they depend to some extent on the revenue from Google, for referring users to Google. And Google is actually competing with them straight, face to face. And I'm quite worried about a situation where all you can choose really would be like between Google, Microsoft, and Apple. This would be quite discomforting situation. I mean, even with the platforms now, it seems like Android is getting a lot of traction, and then you have the options between Microsoft and Apple and Android and a few more. But the thing with I don't just use Firefox, but one of the issues they had is the perception they don't actually make much progress. You see lots of releases of Chrome, very frequent releases, and each time they increase it by a whole number. So it feels to you like, well, Chrome is pretty new. I don't know, 2007 maybe was the first release, or 2000. Yeah, I think 2000 and maybe 2008 even. And it's already in version 10. So the way people's minds work is when they hear Linux 2.6, and they found out Linux 2.6 was also there in like 2005, they think, oh, Linux is not developing very fast. Of course, there is a reason for these numbering schemes, and there is a good reason for them not to change the schemes of the numbers. But what Mozilla is trying to do now, I think the plan is to release Firefox 7 this year, sometime this year, which means they have to release Firefox 4 pretty soon, and then release 5 and 6 and 7, just months apart. Going as many numbers up as they have since the project began. And all this just mostly marketing purposes. The illusion that if you're using Firefox 7 and you look around you, see people using Firefox 3.5, you think, oh, I'm using a much, much newer version because of the number. Microsoft has a new Office, they always tend to choose the numbers based on the current year or a future year. So you always feel like you're having latest versions, and they also skip two numbers at a time. So I think there is no Office 11. There is Office 10, 12, and then 14. And that shows you how companies can even completely skip numbers just for the sake of it, just so that you feel like you're having something newer. And also give you the number of the year. So you kind of feel, oh, which year is it? Oh, 2010. Oh, that's really new. It used to be just work 6. Yeah.
I suppose that's quite important if you're trying to get people to dig into their wallets to spend more money on things which really they've already got the functionality in their current version. I think we mentioned something similar on one of the previous shows in relation to Microsoft Word and the Office suite. Sorry, Rob, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, it's a way of trying to quantify what shouldn't be really quantified. Also, you have the situation with cars where you have the models being named after, who knows what, just some numbers, can be anything. The Nokia 700, 770, 800, 810, and the 900. The numbers, usually you try to use the schemes based on how similar they are visually. So when you look at similar models, they will have similar numbers as well. But again, you have to if a person is going to move from something that's called an N800 to a Nokia N810, it sounds like you're just taking a very, very small step from 800 to 810, and probably will not want to pay much money to move between these two. And this is where the companies have to try and adjust the numbering based on some very arbitrary number of features or amount of time passed between those two devices or products or something. In the case of Firefox, though, people don't pay for upgrades. The same applies for Chromium or for Internet Explorer. People don't buy these things, but they still choose between them. And I think when they see Firefox going by paces of 0 point something and look at Chromium, they naturally get they have this instinct that tells them, well, one of them is moving faster and having bigger steps and more features added just based on the numbers, because that's all they know. And it's a psychological trick. It's really just a psychological trick, and it's the same reason you see lots of things going for $9.99, because people do think it's genuinely, just £9 and not £10. It doesn't matter even if you tell them it's £10, minus a penny, but they still think 9 because they see the 9s, and it's something you can get past. Like seeing faces, and certain faces scare you, certain faces you just tend to know, and the differences might be very, very slight, but you can still tell the difference because the way it affects your brain is just a certain way. That's the thing with the numbers.
Well, mentioning it, just staying on new releases and version numbers, just a couple of quick mentions. A little bit out of date now, but it is one that's worth mentioning because I think this is a package that many people, including myself, take for granted. VLC is now in version 1.1.7. That was released earlier this month. I'm quite sure I don't need to tell people to go and get that because they probably already have it, and even if they haven't paid attention to what they're actually running, that's one of them. Pioneer, which was this package which I've mentioned on quite a few shows now, is still in active development. That's in Alpha 8, I believe, at the moment. That's another great project you should check out. Again, I'll put it into the show notes. It's very closely based on the great game Elite 2 Frontier. That was on the 16-bit, very massive game, very, very good. So I thought I'd throw them in. Whilst now we sort of covered most of the, I think, software subjects, hopefully, that we wanted to speak about. Anything from the main news that has taken your eye this last week, Roy?
Since you mentioned VLC, I personally don't use VLC. I think of it more as a cross-platform application than a very native Linux type thing. I usually would use the KDE players, using the Qt toolkits to make things more consistent with my desktop. But one of the things about VLC, I'm not sure if you've noticed this, they just had the 10th anniversary. And VLC is very well known as an example, except for Firefox of an application which goes to all sorts of platforms, which shows you how many people would use an open source program. And many of them will not be aware of it, and they will use it because it's free or because it's easy to download. Or it's really important as a